Hello and welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis, and today I'm very grateful and very humbly joined by Adrian Domenico. If it wasn't for his podcast 2.5 years ago, I'd still be a human mess. I'd be chasing girls, getting drunk, doing all those things young. Oh, I can't even talk. I'm just that excited with my hero on. Young blokes do. And it was Jason's podcast with Jason Christoff, which I'll put a link to in the bottom, that changed my life forever. And I reached out to him during the week, just hoping he would, see my emails. I'm sure he's flooded with plenty of work and stuff. So I'm glad he responded. I'm glad he's on today. He's an awesome story. I followed his journey from the start of 2020 to now, and I'm really grateful to be interviewing him today. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to hearing his story, and I'm sure all my listeners and viewers are as well. I've started my way through the intro, but I'm just excited. So anyway, Adrian, let's hear about your story, and I'm looking forward to talking about some fluoride stares you've copped, because that last 5 minutes was funny. So thanks, Adrian, for coming on.
No, thank you for having me. And I really do appreciate everything that you said on air and off air. I really don't, I think, appreciate enough exactly what the impact that I may have on the other side of the screen. And I'm just happy for you, mate. I love your story, and I'm really impressed about everything that you're doing. You're taking the ball and you're running with it.
Yeah.
I think Jason's a great guy, and yeah, they're one of the things that I really like. I know we've got a mutual friend in Dale Holmes, and Jason was referred to me by Dale. And so I always kind of reach out to Dale and say, mate, I really want to talk to someone about whatever the topic is. And he'll go, look, if you can get a hold of this bloke, that'd be great. So like Jason was one of them, Charles Salente was another one, all that kind of stuff. So, all these blokes come to me, all these referrals come to me. A lot of them do from my conversations with Dale. Because, and he was one of my first interviews into satanic ritual abuse and all that kind of stuff as well. So I know what it's like, man, to be on the receiving end as well. So I am always reaching out to people, hoping that they respond to my email and all that kind of stuff. And I know how busy and in demand they are. So it's crazy to think, though, that I do reach out to people and they say no, or they go, it's not aligned with me at the moment. They probably see a few episodes and think, fuck, I better stay away from this. And there's other people that are like, yeah, sure, I'd love to. And it's just so hard to pin them down. And they live like an hour away from me. I know exactly that, like, they're busy people, but surely you can spare half an hour. Whereas, someone like Jason is across the world will say yes in a heartbeat, or Robert Kennedy Jr. or someone will go, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So I'm like, if I can pin RFK down, like, yeah, surely this bloke, can come onto the show and spare half an hour. And say, yeah, it's been a wild ride for sure.
That's awesome. I'm glad I've pinned you down then. It sounds like you're pretty busy too, but Adrian's got a coaching business as well. He had a skate park for those that have followed his journey, and I'm just looking forward to hearing all about what you're doing now and who you maybe some future guests you've got coming up, and your Facebook page. Like I follow it. You got heaps of funny posts. You post some good content, good memes, and just looking forward to hearing about your journey and what you're up to now and what you got coming in the future. I see a bright future for you, mate, as you've already,
Thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm just looking forward to hearing it.
It's interesting. The past couple of years has been it's a whirlwind journey, right? I guess you don't know exactly what's in the future and what's coming up. So my story for people, like for your listeners that don't really know anything about my side, is I had been in business for 20 years and I had an idea of running or owning and putting together an indoor skate park. So it's just one of those things where I've been at the skate parks with my kids and I'm sitting out there. We're in an outdoor place. My head's fucking frying. I'm stinging for a coffee or something to eat. And there's always some ratbag kid who I know is going to cause trouble. So I'm ready to punch on at any moment. And I just figured, like, if there was only just an indoor center, that would be a really good opportunity for people to come in, have almost like a guided time where people of certain ages and abilities can go in there. You can have coffee, you can have food, you can have some music playing. There could be a good atmosphere. And so I danced around with these many thousands of ideas, but this is particularly one of them that was stayed in my mind for quite some time. So my wife at the time, showed me a sunrise episode or morning show where they were interviewing this bloke from Adelaide who owns an indoor skate park. And so she sends it to me and go, someone's already done your idea. And I'm like, fuck, I better go and figure it all out and see how I can do it. I can't let this bloke, get the spoils of it. So I just did a journey around Australia. I did most of Australia's indoor skate parks and had a little look at everything and saw which business model was the best one. So put it all together in 2019. And then by 2020, about January 10, 2020 is when we opened. So the thing that I never accounted for, though, was a pandemic. Like I figured out on my risk assessment plan, like what could possibly go wrong if we had this go wrong or that go wrong, or we had a downturn, like what could we do if this was happening or that scenario happened? And we we figured at the time that we had covered all bases, but we didn't put a pandemic on there. So we didn't allow for 9 months of closures. And I don't think any real business does, to be honest. So it's destroyed me. By the time we opened at the January 10, by the end of February, things were just going terribly. And by March 28, we were closed. So at that time, I'd already had an inkling about this, if you want to call it like the agenda or just the way that powers that be manipulate the system. I'd already been exposed to some interviews and some documentaries back in 2005, 6, 7, and it was about the money system and how everything was designed to fail and all that kind of stuff, and 9/11 and all of those things. But these are the things that at that time you don't talk about, right? So it's almost like in the quiet of the night when no one else is around or everyone's asleep, you're watching documentaries till like 2 a.m. or something like that, but you don't fucking talk about it. I remember talking to someone or mentioning about how the money system's corrupted and all that kind of stuff, and you get this fluoride stare talking about off air. Yeah. They're just nodding and going, yeah, I understand. And that they're thinking this bloke's a whack job, and I thought he was a decent guy, but now he's just like he's flipping out. So when all this come about, I'd already been interviewing people anyway. So the podcast has been kind of like rebadged and rebranded. It has a new direction. But I was already interviewing people, but it was from a business perspective. So I'd already interviewed. I'm not sure if you're familiar with other coaches like Taki Moore, Kerwin Ray, and people like of that nature. So it was all about mindset, and it was about business, it was about marketing and all that kind of jazz. So that's been my thing for such a long time. And the show was designed to inspire people in that kind of way. Because this happened, though, I just had to speak out about it. And I first started on Facebook, and I started to say this is bullshit. And even in 2019, at the end of like the December 2019, I was already saying, because remember we had bushfires, we had floods. I was like, all we need now is a fucking plague, and this thing's biblical, right? And people were like, well, there's this thing going on in China at the moment, you should not speak too soon. And before we know it, we've got a plague on our hands. And so it was just nuts. And then I just turned to social media. That was my voice to kind of tell everyone that I disagreed with what was going on. And I could just see it. I'm like, I'm a new business. I was getting none of the benefits. I could see the economic downturn. I could see that the very thing that everyone was being frightening against was the thing that they were running towards in terms of the new medicine, So I was like, this is nuts. And I was trying to warn people as much as I possibly could. And as a result, though, like the podcast and my socials just blew up. Yeah. In negative and positive ways. Yeah. So like everyone in my hometown was saying, get the fuck out of here. You're a nuisance. You should go. You don't realize how many people you're killing. Like someone like you who should be smarter, should know better. You don't realize how many people know you and what you're doing to your family and your friends and all that kind of stuff. You're just an absolute menace to this area. Get out of here. That's what people were literally wishing death of my children, right? Wow. I hope you don't go to hospital and they don't treat you. All that kind of toxic, just nuts sort of stuff that people are going on about. On the flip side, the people that didn't have a voice, or at least didn't have the courage to speak out about it, were liking, commenting, and sharing my content.
That was me.
Thank you. So
no worries.
I kind of got to thinking, well, I should probably start to, because I actually was questioning my sanity quite a bit. I was questioning, because there's confirmation bias on both sides. Would you agree?
Yep.
Like you can be on the conspiracy side for argument's sake and go, I'm going to find evidence to substantiate everything that I believe to be true, and then just blurt it out. But you can do it on both sides. You can find everything to the contrary and say that everything you're saying is wrong and everything I'm saying is right, because here's the evidence to support that the government's just, clean as a whistle. They don't do anything wrong. Everything's in your best interest, and this new medicine's great for your health, right? So I had to kind of figure out, like, is it me? Am I really buying myself into it? Because I had people that are like really close to me saying, you got to pull your head in, and you're coming across a little bit loopy, and I was like, fuck, really? Is it that bad? Can't you see what's going on? I was just like, how do I solve this? So I kind of just thought to myself, I've seen videos and documentaries and people speaking out about it that were virologists and scientists and doctors, and they had their own sort of expertise or credentials, much more than what I did. So yeah, I kind of thought, well, how about I just email Christiane Northrup and just see if she has anything to say to me, because she had this video going around at the moment, at that time, telling everyone that there's fetus cells in this stuff, and it's just like rotten. So this thing was going viral. So I emailed her. Lo and behold, she emails me back and says, "I'd love to chat." Dr. Roger Hodgkinson, same deal. I got into the satanic ritual abuse. That's where I got into Dale's content and all that kind of stuff. And so all of a sudden, these doctors around the world were saying, I want to come on your show and I want to talk about it, because I think the more information we can get out there that's counter narrative would be the best thing. And everything just went wild. So on the positive side, it like went nuts, and this social media was getting to the point where it was just, I think, like a bit of a flex at that time was, have you looked at like your metrics in terms of data on
I have
social pages? All right. So when it says like how many people you're reaching per month and how many people are engaged in your content. So at the peak of everything that's going on, this little page, and at that time there would have been about 10,000 fans or something like that, was 39 million people a month, and 4 million people a month were engaged in the content.
Wow.
Like you can measure that metric against your competitors. I can say, like, give me Frank Kern, give me Kerwin Ray, give me Parky Moore, give me Sam Ovens, all the guys that are in the coaching space. And my data was beating all of theirs combined.
Wow.
Right? It was just going absolutely wild. Not that you should measure any kind of success on that, but that's how this stuff was going. It was getting hundreds of thousands of likes, millions of views across a bunch of videos and stuff like that. And it was just going, it was going crazy. But then all the censorship come along. And now, like you're saying before, I got some nice memes and things, but that's really what I've been reduced to. Like, taking the piss, basically. Like that's all I can get away with, because I've got that, or the option of putting on Cats Afraid of Fucking Cucumbers, some sort of bullshit to get everyone's attention. But at this point, So to summarize all of that, like it kind of, I was already doing coaching, and that's what people, I think I'd like them to know. I was already coaching from a business perspective, and I was already coaching in marketing and mindset and all that sort of stuff. So everything just started to pivot, and you quickly realize at the time that perhaps I'd been climbing the ladder of success, but only to realize that the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. And so this just made me pivot. The business is something that, look, I can pat myself on the back and say I did do it, but in the government's way of crucifying businesses like mine, they did their job there. And that's something that is, it's affected me financially, mentally, emotionally, and all those sorts of things. But the outgrowth of all of that is me understanding myself and standing firm in my truth and understanding what I truly value and what I truly believe in, and being a man of my convictions and my words, and unwavering in the thoughts and the views that I have on the world and how to carry myself through society in a way that is, for me, what I would aspire to be a leader would be like, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So my coaching now is kind of like that. It's a lot to do with understanding your true north, where you were at, all the childhood, mind viruses and the trauma, all those things that are made you the person that you were, but now you want to be something different. So we need a kind of almost like to upgrade the me app, and get some new programs downloaded and understand what I truly my truth north is really, and then align all of the goals with the values and with the belief systems and helping people understand. As you know,
Yep, I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's it. And it's hard to read the label from the inside of the bottle. So some people can try and figure it out themselves, and I've always been a kind of let me figure this shit out. But my biggest breakthroughs have been through working with someone in an environment that helps them reflect what they see from an outside point of view, and then I can internally figure out where those pieces of the puzzle make sense and don't, and then put myself back together again. So that's where I'm at the moment.
That's awesome. Oh, I'm doing the exact same thing, and it's the most powerful work. And how did you find doing all this work on yourself? Mine was brutal. I found myself crying. I faced how much of a prick I was. I did all those things, faced my dark night of the soul. How was that process for you during your? Well, I call it the dark night of the soul. That's as simple as I can put it. So yeah, how was that process for you during all that, mate?
It's the same.
Yeah,
and it's still a process.
Yep.
It's something that, for me, the financial loss of the business, the closures, watching something that I created get destroyed, being out of control of what something external is happening to me. And then in the midst of all of that, a marriage breakdown and a separation and a divorce. And so all of that pulled into one. And essentially how I relate it is that it almost brings up a PTSD in the last couple of years. It's triggered every traumatic response that I've had from a childhood and brought it to the fore. So, I'll be 45 this year. And so everything that I learned from 0 to 5 is now playing out in my adult eyes. And then because of the work that I've been doing, I've been able to recognize the patterns and all of the things, like the same kind of patterns of success and also patterns of failure in the past. I agree with you. Dark nights of the soul. Never cried so much in my life.
Yeah. Never
realized just how much I was living in survival, how much I was acting out from a traumatic response, how much trapped emotions were stuck in my body, whereabouts in the body that I was feeling them. And from the memories that I was able to draw that association to a feeling, a person, a situation, a circumstance, a place, whatever it may be, and then have that belief system be a part of my body and a part of my mind and my soul. And this is just the way that I am. And this is my go-to response. And this is how I act in certain situations. Never thinking, or at least understanding the power that I have to change that program. And yeah, it's just been, it's been a whirlwind. And I mentioned that word a bunch of times, but yeah, man, honestly, it's caused heaps and heaps of problems. So without scaring the shit out of people, certainly from a mental stability point of view, it really gives you an idea of just how fickle the mind is. And it can be super strong, but it can also be very weak at the same time. So it's figuring out how to kind of navigate through that maze. The other side for me was I experienced a very physical response to everything that was going on. So I've had injuries and setbacks. It's not just a monetarily thing or something that has affected me emotionally. I've been injured and it's just all of these things that have come up. I tore my bicep, I had a groin injury. There was just so many things that sort of put me out for months. So it's almost like when I was at my lowest, I got kicked in the fucking nuts. And then, it was like, right, yeah, we're just going to keep badgering you until you change.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
I'm hearing you.
yeah. So, like the healing side of things was a fascinating journey for me. So, a lot of that to me was kind of, I've read the Joe Dispenza books and I've, listened to podcasts and programs before about the power of the mind. But now I actually had to put all of that into practice and into use. And I was given opportunities to heal myself, and I did. And so now it's like, not that I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I'm in this massive rebranding of myself, in a sense of rebuilding who I am and who I want to be, and becoming the man and the father that I want to be, the leader that I want to be, get myself in a position where I'm stable and secure and financially independent. And so, it just causes you to sort of count your cards and think things differently and figure out a way, rather than to capitulate and, just die.
I'm hearing every single word, because it's been similar for me, not in terms of a as big as a divorce, but like, I feel that you lose so much to gain everything. Like, you gain love for yourself, you gain all of these things that just, I don't know. I just felt like that when I shed all of that, that my world just lit up around me. That's just how I found it. Like, starting this podcast and doing the things that I was doing, like, my world just lit up. Like, my vibration was just so high. I'm forever grateful for that COVID period, because I'd still be a human mess right now. I really, really would be. So I'm just grateful for it. But it's a lifelong journey, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I'm still unpacking a lot of stuff. Like,
same.
I feel like there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
But for me, there's been like just a bunch of deaths of ego.
Yep.
Who you thought you were, who you thought your closest friends and family were, like, just the paradigm of the world has changed and has shifted dramatically. And so I'm still navigating through that, because even though it's almost like I've got this splice in time. So I've kind of got this, matrix, if you will, on this side, which is the adage of the old ways of doing things. And I'm still a part of it. Like, I'm in the process of offloading the business. I'm in the process of, like I said, separating and getting all of those things sorted out financially and all that kind of stuff. So there's still things that are kind of anchoring me into that world. And I have things in this world, the new way of looking at things, which are pulling me towards that direction. So for me, there's a bit of a tug of war happening at the moment, where I've kind of got a balance between the two. So my daily practices in terms of keeping my mind right is just an essential function of living, because without it, I don't think I would be here, to be honest. I think I would have some sort of mental breakdown.
Yep.
And my body would just shut down.
Yeah. So what mental practices do you use? How do you keep your meditation, yoga, exercise? What do you do? I eat organic food too.
I just started yoga.
Yeah.
I started some hot yoga not too long ago, just a couple of weeks ago. So I've only done a couple of sessions, but I've been in the gym since I was about like 13 or 14. So my dad got like one of those home gyms. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the Weeder bench press, where you've got like the bench press set up, the leg curls, and the lat all in one.
Yep.
So he got that and hung clothes on it, and I took a look at it and thought I'd like to go train. So I kind of just went and started working out. So I've been in the gym, and that's always been a staple for me.
Yeah.
Every time, like in my teenage years and late teens, early 20s, when I got caught up in clubbing and drugs and all that kind of stuff, it was bodybuilding and all that kind of stuff, weightlifting, that got me out of that. And whenever there was times where I let that go, I got stuck into business, I was stressed out, overweight, it was getting back to the gym that pulled me out of my funk. So a form of meditation for me is lifting heavy weights, and I do that every day. So at least my goal is to train in the gym 7 days a week. And so sometimes I hit 5, sometimes I hit 6. I rarely hit 7 if I'm honest, but my goal is to get there every day. So I just I can't stress enough how much it's a huge part of my life. So, and the things that I do in the gym is lift really heavy, and I think that it's a very underutilized opportunity to do physically, like a physical workout or something physical that requires all of your mind, body, and spirit to do. And in that moment, there's nothing else that's entering your mind. So if I'm in the gym, for example, and I'm doing a leg press with like 350 kilos, like there's not much happening in my mind at that time. I'm purely focused on lifting the weight. And so the focus then is really present. It's really in the moment. I'm just using my mind to focus on my legs to push this fucking weight up and down 10 times and then have a rest and then do it again and do it again and do it again. So that to me is something that is a staple every single day. Meditation is something that has been a part of my life for a long time. But what I do now is different to mindfulness. It's different to listening to some nice music and then just relaxing and all those sorts of things. I have developed this kind of relationship with my higher self. And so if you want to call it your authentic self, you want to call it God, whatever it is, I'm not really a religious person. I have this, the way I see it is this ability to talk to myself in the future, right? So if you can buy into the concept that time is an illusion and that at the moment you and I are having this conversation in this time, but in another time, there are other people having a conversation as well and doing something different. So all this time is spliced a billion ways. And so if you look at, again, an extension of that would be energy. You know, we're looking at each other through a screen and this energy is now vibrating through the ether and it's getting towards, you know, these cameras and we're looking back at each other and we're having a chat. So if you can buy into that concept, then energy has no boundaries. So therefore, this energy can travel through time and space, and it can travel through galaxies, and it can travel through many planets here, there, and everywhere. So there's every opportunity to believe that there's a version of Nathan, there's a version of me having a conversation in another time and place 1,000 years from now on another planet. And as esoteric as that sounds,
goosebumps.
To me, it's at least a concept that I've bought into. So to draw it back to mindfulness or to draw it back to meditation, I kind of sit with myself and I go through practices of breathing and calming my mind and releasing tension and letting go of emotions and detaching from all of that to get myself into a nice sort of like theta state. But at that time, I start having really intelligent conversations with Adrian 10 minutes from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, whatever. So 100 years from now, like what would that guy be doing? Because that would be a future representation of the potential that I could have in this moment. So let's call upon that and bring it back in. So on a very basic level, it's having a conversation to say, is there tension in my body? Is there things that I need to be focused on? What kind of mineral supplements, foods should I be eating more? Which direction should I take my business in? What should I focus on? What type of content? You know, the things that I really need to be focusing on today. What's my vision of the future? Where are the things I need to be really paying attention to? Because you know, we can all get distracted by so many things. And when you take on, like you were mentioning before, I feel like you're taking on a podcast and coaching and writing a book and you want to share your message with the world. But then there's all these moving parts, and all of a sudden there's a shiny objectitis, and you're distracted, and you know you're sort of like stuck by all of this stuff that's going on. So for me, it just brings me clarity and focus, and it keeps me calm and centered. And the more I can do away with the negative charge that has on my body of thinking about the what ifs and the future, because at the moment, like, there's a lot to worry about. There's a lot about the future. And I think as a man, and I'm not quite sure how most women would think about this, but as a man, I think about the future a lot. I think about the future of my kids. I think about how I'm going to be providing for them in their future times, and how I'm going to keep myself functioning and stable and financially. And I want to keep goals and all that kind of stuff. So it's easy to kind of like keep projecting, into the future and miss out on the present moment and on the things that you should be actually focusing on, which will get you to the things that you want to do in the future. So that's sort of like the two key pillars there that I do. And the other main part of that is dissolving emotions.
Yeah.
And so I've just kind of come to understand with my business coaching. I had a client of mine who's now like one of my best mates, and we hang out not as often as we used to since COVID, but he has a strategy of releasing emotions. And so I utilized a lot of that content, a lot of the content that I'd learned from all the good guys like Joe Dispenza and just, you know, Greg Braden, just all of those guys. I'm not sure if you subscribe to like Gaia and all that kind of stuff. So all those, the good guys over there, just all of that kind of teaching, and then utilizing my own ability to kind of decipher through which stuff appeals to me and what I can apply. But the balancing out of emotions, or at least dissolving the negative charge that they have on my body and whereabouts in the body that I feel it, has had a huge impact. That to me has been a game changer. And I think what you were asking me before is like how my journey has been. The thing that really disrupted me the most emotionally and physically was my relationship. It really done a number on me. Like if you go into attachment theories or anything about childhood trauma and trauma bonding and all that kind of stuff, holy fuck. You will start to unravel things that you're like, how did this thing live in my body for such a long time? And I had no idea. And, you know, I never really got that sort of spin on it. So the biggest growth that I've experienced in the last couple of years has really been relationships. The relationship with myself is a reflection of the relationship with others, and being, especially in the intimate relationship, being involved in that capacity has challenged me so much that I've had to like look at myself, sit back, I guess, cast my mind into that of the other person, look at things from their perspective, understand their whole physiology and their whole psyche and all that kind of stuff, to understand how I'm going to respond in a certain situation, then figure out which is the trigger, the trauma, the pattern, the trauma response and all that kind of stuff, and do that kind of like lightning speed. So you don't say something fucking stupid or something you regret, or just tell the world to go fuck itself and all of a sudden you're just this single recluse that, you know, has a long gray beard and just, you know, sits in a corner and doesn't do much anymore. Yeah. So that to me is like it's been an absolute game changer. I can't begin to express how much it's had an impact on me and impact on the clients that I'm working with now, because this is the other thing about positioning yourself, and you would find this to be the same. You all of a sudden say, this is what I'm doing now. You attack it with conviction, and you say to yourself, this is just who I am now. I'm going to be projecting myself out as this person, these beliefs, these values, and these morals, and this is how I'm going to have the world allow to see me. And so I just began to think that if I'm not vulnerable, and if I'm not going to at least expose myself to being ridiculed, shamed, guilted, whatever it is, in order to penetrate through enough to reach as many people as I possibly can, to feel like I'm on the right track, because a lot of those naysayers can cloud your judgment and think that you're on the wrong path. But it's really like to support and like the comments that you were saying off air, in terms of you listen to one podcast, you did a coaching course, and all of a sudden your life's changed. Like that there is a depiction of the impact that you can have by simply doing something that frightens the hell out of you.
Yeah, spot on.
The result has been is that I've attracted people that are like me, right? So when I conduct my webinars and I put on my ebooks and I write content, and people reach out to me and say, I need your help, it's inevitably people that are like, I figured out there's something wrong with the system, and now I know that I need to change. I need to be the change that I want to see in the world, and they're taking full responsibility for themselves, and they want to make a difference, you know? So, and that could be on any level. Like you don't have to be writing books or creating podcasts or speaking on world stages, but, you know, to make an impact in your own life, with your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, girlfriend, upon your children, whatever that may be. Like, to me, that's been a key thing that I'm loving at the moment, because I've on one side of my mind, I'm like, I don't know how much they know about me.
Yeah.
And they might look at a podcast and go, holy fuck, this guy's an idiot. And on the other hand, they're like, you know, someone like you who's watched a podcast and shared a bunch of content and has had a life-changing experience. So, you know,
Yeah.
thankfully, most people have been on this side that are, you know, had a positive effect. So
That's awesome.
I'm going to run with that.
That last 5 minutes was awesome. I'm going to cut that up and put that on as a video on Facebook and social media. Like that, it just basically sums up like my journey as well. It's the relationship with self, relationship with the others, like the perception of reality changes, your perception of like, yeah, I was just you left me speechless. I was just in awe of that, mate. Yeah, that's just so powerful stuff, isn't it? Like, it's like I had this dream of what I wanted to do. I didn't know how I was going to do it or what I was going to be, but I always had a passion for writing and a passion for helping people. I just didn't know how. And then as soon as I quit drinking, bang. Yeah, it can happen so fast. And if anyone out there is listening to this and is inspired, please reach out to me, reach out to Adrian. Like, this work and this stuff is life-changing, and it can happen in an instant, because by the sounds of it, it's happened to Adrian as well. And it's just the most powerful work. And you're not only doing it for yourself, you're doing it for others as well. And yeah, it's just what you're putting out there is what you get back. And yeah, just reach out. Like, that was awesome, man.
Yeah. I think that most people would begin to realize now that there's no one coming to save them. And I might offend a few people by saying that. I mean, you can put all your energy and power into somebody else external from you coming to save the day. And, you know, there are some people out there that have influence and impact and can make a difference, but it's no one thing in isolation. And it's like a lot of them would have to come together in order to make the change that we need to see in the world. And it starts with the individual. So you can't really expect that someone else is going to come along and undo all of the bad stuff that's happened over the last century or two. And everything's just going to go back to normal, and we're going to be hunky-dory tomorrow, and life's going to be peachy keen. It's just not the case. The people need to realize that there's so many things at play here. And so when I speak to people in my coaching, I talk to a lot of things. I'm like, what's your internal environment like? What are the things, what's going on in your body? You know, what's your digestion like? What's your sleep like? You know, what foods are you putting in your mouth? Are you drinking the fluoride water, or are you drinking highly nutritious like foods that have got a lot of minerals, a lot of good things that can help your body, right? What are you listening to? What books are you reading? What podcasts have you got going on at the moment? What shows are you watching? Like, are you watching Law and Order every fucking day of the week, watching the doom and gloom of the news at 6:00 every night? Are you reading the paper? Or are you filling your mind with good material that's going to have a positive impact on you? You know, what are the daily practices that you have in order to create the best day that you can possibly have? In an ideal world, if anything was possible, what would an ideal day look like? How would that feel for you if you were to maybe, I guess, nail that kind of day, maybe 7 times out of 10? So I tell people, like, if you're an investor and you won 70% of your investments were positive, you'd be almost up there with Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, I think, was at about, I don't know, something like 86% success rate with his investments. So if that means if you win 7 out of 10 in your day, like 5 days out of 7, for example, or 4 days out of 7, that's a good fucking week. And if you 70% of the month and 70% of the year, that's a stellar year. Like, people are going to be looking at you in awe, saying, like, how the fuck are you doing what you're doing? But you're losing 30% of the time. right? Whereas most people are not focused on those sorts of things, on the impact that the internal and external environment is happening. And so then I'll look at relationships and I'll say, what's the relationship with yourself like? What are the internal dialogues and the internal thoughts? What are your values? What's most important out of all of those values? Let's put them in a hierarchy of importance, because a lot of people can think that love is the most important thing, but they don't realize that really it's being respected, or it's being praised, or it's being valued as an individual. That is really the most important thing. So I look at all of these mechanisms before I even look to goals or look to setting some sort of an achievement, because I can give you all the programs that you want and all the steps that can get you to the goals. But chances are you'll fuck it up, because you've got all of these programs and mind viruses that are plaguing your very existence that have gotten to where you are. And so, once you realize that it all starts and stops with you, and I think that this last 3 years has really taught people that there is no savior coming. There's no one that's going to be coming to save the day. I don't believe in any prophecies of that particular nature.
Neither do I.
Musk. I don't think it's fucking Trump.
No.
I don't think anyone's coming along. I don't believe in the fucking Q theory. I don't believe in the white hats and all that kind of shit. I just don't buy into it. There's not enough evidence for me to support that there's any sort of truth to all that. But what I do know is that this guy can change the direction and the trajectory of his life today. I can do it right now, right in this minute. I can make a difference. I can go for a walk. I can drink coconut water. I can, get some nice food into me, and I can get some sunlight, and I can go for a swim in the ocean. I can have a workout. I can put together a program or a product or a service, or I can tell people about the knowledge that I can impart on them, make an impact in some way, shape, or form. And that can be the difference that
absolutely
affect amongst, everyone else. Yeah.
Absolutely. I do the exact same thing. I actually have a questionnaire that covers all of that and more. 16 pages worth of stuff, and yep. It's like, what does that dream feel like, smell like, taste like, and love it. And I'm exactly the same. Like, no one is coming to save us here. Like, if there was someone coming to save us, we'd already be saved. That's how I see it. Yeah.
How fucking bad does that have to get? Like,
exactly.
People will quickly realize, if they haven't done already, that it's no one thing in isolation. And it does sound cliche when everyone does have to come together and unite and build a team and all that kind of stuff. However, it's a collective, and that is based on a bunch of individuals, and those individuals have to see that they are a source of power. And I think that's the biggest delusion, is that the power is outside of me. Like when I talk to the meditations that I do, and I talk to a higher power, and I get on social media when I mention things like this, and a lot of the God lovers out there will come on and say their piece about their how God
I read it.
Yeah, so anyway,
I read them, don't worry.
and I grew up in a Christian, like, Catholic school. So I went to a Catholic primary school, a Catholic high school. I went to church. I was in the fucking choir, all that kind of stuff. So, I've lived through all of that. In the same breath, I also have seen, like, the very chaotic and narcissistic and abusive side of it as well. And I think that can be said about every industry and every religion and all that kind of stuff. But this vehicle that we've been given to navigate through life is, like, super powerful.
Oh yeah.
If this is not creation embodied, then I don't know what the fuck is. God-like and Christ-like, and in terms of the miracles that it can perform, then I don't know what is.
Yep.
So when I say to people that I am God and you are God and they are God, and, like, we all are, the Christ consciousness, God consciousness, like, I get shunned for it. Like, it's a public stoning just about, so it's amazing how much people will defend
their belief system.
They have ridiculed me in terms of, thinking that there's a conspiratorial bunch of people that or a bunch of people that conspire together that are trying to rule the world. But, I'm wrong in believing that there's a man in the sky that's fucking, pulling the strings on all this stuff, So it's and I say that tongue in cheek, but it's one of those things that for me personally, my belief system is that this is divine.
Yep.
And have the power of healing. I've healed myself beyond doctors' recognitions and capabilities and diagnoses and all that kind of stuff. So I know what this thing is capable of doing. And so unless you've truly lived that,
Yep.
I'm not sure whether you sort of get where I'm coming from. You would always abdicate that role of power to someone else.
Yeah, it's take your power back. I'm resonating with it because I've done the exact same thing. I got goosebumps from my head down my feet, mate. Like what you're saying is spot on because, we just take our power back, and it's so simple, isn't it? Like we're always looking for that quick, that guru, that master, that coach, that doctor, that psychologist. It's like we have all that power within, and in the work we both do, we allow you to take your power back and put you on the right path again, so you can shine bright like a bloody diamond.
Yeah, that's right. I really like that there are a bunch of coaches out there, and I don't think that it's a wrong thing to seek leadership. I think where people need to draw the line in the sand is how much of their power that they give away to others in order to be. And so I'm always a student of life. That's my adage. I've always liked to learn. And one of the things I discovered about myself a little while ago, when I was exiting my previous business, I owned a real estate agency for 10 years. And on the exit of that was when I started into business coaching. And it just was one of these things. I was like thinking about the timeline in my life as how I got to be the type of person that I am and the things that have shaped me to where I am today. And there were just little things. So I would think about a time in primary school. I wasn't really the best student. I was always distracting others and making trouble and all that kind of stuff. So conversely, I was always picked for the student. If you ever needed something to be run from your classroom to another classroom, they would pick me. And the strategy was to get me the fuck out of the room so I wouldn't cause any more distraction. So whenever there was little kids coming in, like new kindergartens, they're like, we need someone to take these kindergartens and show them around the school. And they go, Adrian, you go and show these people around the school, tell them about the stuff and all that kind of jazz, the class would say, can you choose a student from your classroom to come over and do a presentation on the environment? This is like in year 4. And so they go, Adrian, you go over there. So I go over. They had this almost like a chalkboard with pictures of fish in the ocean and all this kind of stuff. And so I walk in there, no script, nothing prepared. And they go, and I'd say, hey kids, so if these fish, do they look happy? And the kids would go, yeah, they look happy. And then I'd say, well, imagine they were in dirty water and all that kind of stuff. Would they be happy then? And they go, no, they wouldn't be happy. And so all of a sudden I'm running my first fucking seminar, right? And this is kind of happening throughout my life. I'm always the leader, the teacher, the guy that shows people around and on a spot using my voice. And it was happening all through life, right? Becoming a personal trainer. I would do that for a number of years. When I got out of that, got into real estate. One of my first bosses said to me that we have this kind of marketing plan that we sell to the owners, and we let them know that we market this way and we charge them money. And so I go out there, and this has never been done before. So I come back and I go, yeah, here's the $500 for marketing. And my boss looked at me and goes, how the fuck did you get that? And I go, well, you just told me that you charge for marketing. So, and he'd be like, well, can you teach the rest of the guys how to do it? Because these guys aren't getting any of the marketing coming back, right? So all of a sudden, I'm the sales coach, right? So to me, it was an interesting acknowledgement that there was these little timelines throughout my entire life that said, Adrian actually likes learning despite that I didn't do well at school. I like teaching and I'm a bit of a leader. Right. So these are the things that were just coming up all the time. So now it's easy for me, whether I make $1 or $10 or 1,000 or nothing, it doesn't really matter because I'm in alignment with my truth, my passion, my purpose. Like this is just where I see myself for the rest of my days. I don't really want to be diverging in any way, shape, or form. I did that a couple of years ago with the skate park, and now that my fingers have been burnt, it's one of those things where I go, this is a lesson to bring yourself to true, to just follow your passion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. It's like the universe gave that one last lesson, that one last kick in the ass to say, "Oi, back in alignment, mate. Come on, right. we have work to do." Yeah, that's just awesome, mate. Like, such an awesome story, such an awesome person, and I'm so grateful you came on today, mate. But I have two questions left. So the first one I'll ask is, I often ask my guests, I don't know whether you've watched any of my other ones, but I ask my guests at the end, if any of that resonated with them. If they're stuck, if they're not in alignment, they're lost, they're broken, they're addicted, they're watching porn, they're drinking away their life, they're flapping it off to buddy chicks on the internet, they're doing all those things that I call self sabotage. What would you say to those people that resonated with them, and they can just, like, one piece of advice they can take away from today and they can start their journey?
I would say that if you are at a point where you think that's a problem, then it's definitely a problem. So I don't think that you can ever get to a situation in life where those things will be arising and you are consciously recognizing that it's an issue in your life. And so I think there's these hard, sort of honest, real conversations you need to have with yourself. And if that's the case, then it definitely is a problem. So I wouldn't sweep it under the carpet, and I would face that problem. The other part of that advice would be, well, then what comes next? Well, the what comes next is you've created habits of self-sabotage that are impeding on how great a greater quality of life that you have. So what would your, like, ideal you, or the higher version of you, be doing? So it's a very easy bridge to gap in between who I am now and who I want to be, is to just cast your mind forward and go, well, the ideal Adrian, what would he be doing in this moment? Well, he'd be whatever it may be. So if I'm watching a shit ton of porn and I'm pissing my life away with alcohol and going out on the weekends, well, Adrian would be getting rid of all those distractions. He would be replacing it with something positive. He'd be going out, instead of going out on the weekends, he'd be finding a hobby, a passion, or something else to do that can build a second income stream, or just provide entertainment and something that can give him inspiration and joy and passion and an exuberance for life. So I really think that if you're finding it hard to find the next step, the notion of there's a higher version of you somewhere, what would they be doing in this moment, is probably a great first step.
That's awesome. That's such an awesome piece of advice. I actually ask my guests for a dad joke or an affirmation as well, because I've always loved my dad jokes. Do you have one? Even you are a father, so have you got a dad joke for us to finish on?
Oh my God, you put
me on the spot.
Yeah, I don't think I have got many dad jokes, but they have to be on the fly and in the moment with my kids, so I can
that's all right.
the most. Look, in terms of quotes and things like that, I really think, in affirmations, there's a process that I go through with just really releasing the negative emotions. So it's not so much an affirmation as such, but it's kind of like a neuro-linguistic programming. It's a brain languaging that you can say to yourself every single day. And for me, it's the words I choose to let go of. And the other words is I choose to welcome. So in the let go of, if I can say to myself, I choose to let go of worry, fear, blame, ridicule, being a victim. Right. So the moment that I command my mind to say, I choose to let go of, it releases. I feel my body get lighter. I feel the emotions run away from my system. And I feel like that my body just becomes freer. But in that moment, so we're thinking about, I want to earn money. I want to have this type of body. I want to have this material possession, whatever it may be. Right now, someone in the world has got what you have. So it's not like it's impossible to have, because it's already possibly by the notion that someone else already has it. It's not something that needs to be made or invented or built, because it's already made, invented, and built. So there's no reason to not conceive that in this moment you can't have it in this very moment. So the next phrase is, I choose to welcome. And so if I choose to welcome, feeling open, feeling abundant, feeling calm, feeling relaxed, feeling I'm energized, then what I can do is call in the very thing that I want in this very moment, while I'm dishing out the thing that I don't want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That's awesome.
To let go of, I choose to welcome.
I love that. That's such an awesome way to finish. Adrian, thank you so much for accepting the invitation to come on. That was an awesome chat. I was a bit nervous talking to you. I stuttered my way through it, but we got there in the end. That was just an awesome chat, mate. I was just sitting there in awe of what you were saying, mate, because it was very relevant to what I've been sitting in for the past couple of weeks. So you've actually helped me now go away and get the rest of it out of my system, mate. That was just awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure. It's always an honor to have this opportunity. I wish you well with everything you're doing. And
thanks, mate.
You definitely inspired me today too, with your success that you've been having, all from that ripple effect of just
your podcast
out there and doing something a bit weird and strange.
Yeah, it literally was. Yeah. So anyone out there, we'll put Adrian's links in the description box below. Please reach out to him. If you haven't followed him on Facebook, the content is actually quite funny. Some of his memes I've even shared. So yeah. So thank you, Adrian. And I'll see you guys really soon with another awesome guest. So thank you for tuning in wherever in the world you are. And hopefully this has resonated with you and we can rid the world of self-sabotage and we leave the earth better than we found it. So that's how we'll finish. So thank you.
Thank you, mate. Talk soon.